Hi, and welcome to the Two Idiots Talk About podcast. My name's Jacob, and with me today I have Trent.
Hi, my name's Trent, and this is the podcast where we give our idiotic opinion on a bunch of topics that we are not qualified to talk about.
And what little qualifications I do have, I am a computer science major. I'm fascinated with learning new things. I have a strange encyclopedic knowledge of just a bunch of random topics, and from what I understand, Trent is also like that.
Nah, he gives me too much credit. I just like fish and trees.
Um, and
That's about it.
yeah, today we're going to be talking about, a, to me, I think it's a very interesting topic. In the fact, it's not something I don't want to say believe in or don't believe in.
Wait. I want to Hitchcock. I want to ask you this question so the viewers know. Uh, why are you a hater?
So I'm a man of science. I don't particularly
Why are
believe.
you a hater?
I don't believe in the paranormal. I've never really been shown anything that shows me that ghosts, even aliens visiting the planet, are real. Um, there's just no factual science based proof for any of these things, and while I am fascinated in learning about what caused them to come up in our cultural zeitgeist, I I think they should be looked at as fiction. They don't need to be seen. I think they what purpose do they serve in culture? Not really oh, there's ghosts in my house and I how do I get rid of them? Like I think that can kind of be harmful in a lot of ways.
I personally think you need a constant stock of silver bullets.
I mean, it can't really hurt. I mean, I have been wrong about a lot of things. Um, so I mean, I'd definitely be the kind of guy that'd walk into a haunted house and be like, "There's no demons here," and then the demon would eat my heart.
You would be the first guy. You would be the guy that died
Yeah,
like in the first 30 minutes of a horror movie.
yeah,
You would be the one that would like they're telling the story around the campfire and they're like you hear a noise in the woods and you're like it ain't nothing and you go in and you get weed eatered in the face or whatever
we
Jason
cheated
Ford
in the
weed eatered
face.
in the face, yeah. And
My
whatever
old Jim
Jake
Bob, the demon ghost.
yeah.
But today's topic is kind of in that vein. And I think I'm gonna hand it off to Trent to kind of introduce our topic.
We're talking about skinwalkers, boys and girls, and all people of miscellaneous genders. Uh So skinwalkers are, if any people are not familiar with, are a Navajo uh, sort of urban legend myth. They have a actual name in the Navajo language that I cannot pronounce. So
From what I've been able to glean, it's Yinaldushii or Yinaldushi.
yeah, the Yee uh, those things. But skinwalkers is what most people would commonly refer to them as, and that's the topic today because it's in a culture of a lot of Native American mythos. Like
Mm-hmm.
there seems to be in almost every North American Native American tribe uh, some form of myth about this creature that takes the shape of animals and lures people into the woods. Now its origins differs between tribe to tribe, but they seem to have this sort of base to this myth throughout all the cultures.
So you're a little bit more knowledgeable on the topic from me, but from what I've been able to learn from them, the general consensus is that they are Navajo witches, healers, medicine men who have kind of taken into this kind of dark magic, um, and this kind of dark magic has twisted them into this supernatural being, and it has given them, I don't really say unholy, but unnatural ability. Yin al Dushai, from what I understand, literally translates to by means of it, it goes on all fours. And that kind of translates in the fact that they have the ability to shapeshift into various creatures. The most common one I saw was coyotes,
Yeah,
because
and coyotes make the most sense too, because in American culture, coyotes were known as like the trickster
mhm.
animal. They were the ones that fooled people, and that goes into the myth that it's a medicine man that purposely fooled the people of the village, and that sort of corruption is what turned him into the thing that into these trickster animals. Was the original mythos, from my understanding. Uh, Very similar to the Wendigo story, how they start off as humans. The Wendigo obviously is someone who resorted to cannibalism, and that act turned them into a feral monster.
And that was a fascinating thing to me that, oh, like, and I don't think it's specifically like Navajo culture and stuff like that, but in a lot of like modern like interpretations of this culture, they, the Wendigo, Skinwalkers, and a lot of these um, cultural myths and legends uh, kind of melded together, and like we kind of like take bits and pieces of them to kind of build this modern horror concept.
Now, I
But
would like to state that the idea of them becoming a medicine man that has been corrupted is strictly the Navajo belief. There are other beliefs within the Apache, and I cannot pronounce this word right. The Hopi, is that how you would say that native tribe?
Hoppy, uh,
Hopi.
I think so.
Wait,
I
more
don't.
of the it's more of the Western Mexico region tribes where this originates. Uh, but the Navajo is the one that mainly is the belief that it was a medicine man that was turned into a malicious being.
And I think it's really interesting that like whenever I was doing my research for this topic, that I learned a lot about how a lot of our modern concepts about how these things work aren't don't actually particularly derive from the Navajo. It's the bastardization of their culture by modern people, like in the way they interpreted it. Um,
Well, if you look at a lot of Native American mythos, there's a common. So in our culture today, we see a lot of their beliefs as these evil spirit entities. But if you notice a lot of their culture, it's mainly people that were corrupted.
yeah,
These evil entities were sort of like a warning of what would happen, sort of like telling people, if you're not good, Santa Claus won't come. If you did
yeah,
this bad act and break a taboo, you may be corrupted and turned into one of these creatures.
and I think that's an
Uh,
interesting talking point in a lot of different cultures that like we most cultures whenever I was looking into it have these kind of boogeymen in a way in their culture.
mhm.
Um, I'm even like in like for a lot of like say like Christian culture, it's like Satan and demons and like, but in this culture, it's more human than that. It's um, I find that fascinating that it's the corruption of humanity that the thing is really being focused on.
and
Not
it may be a way. Sorry to
no, you're
cut you
fine.
off,
Continue.
but and it may be a way for their societies to kind of distance themselves from the people that commit heinous acts.
Yeah,
By thinking of them as no longer human and a monster, it demonizes them, which I think maybe incentivizes people less to do those acts,
yeah,
but also in a way sort of admires their own humanity. That humanity is when so like one of the major acts of taboo is obviously cannibalism, incest. These are the main acts that would make someone become a Wendigo or Skinwalker. And I think by separating them from the acts and saying people that do that are monsters, it just allows them to come at peace more with their humanity.
and I think like that brings the discussion of like what do these kind of stories serve in culture, and or at least in like more ancient cultures. Like there's a lot of discussion about like what is the purpose of like how does a human tell from right or wrong? I think it's an innate thing that we know right and wrong. It's just that you build these concepts in your culture to kind of solidify that, you know. Like what is your culture's rules of operation? And like I see the Navajo and they have a lot of respect for humanity and what it means to be human. Um, and like the corruptions of that, like cannibalism, like to do like the act of dehumanizing another person is innately evil.
Yeah, yeah, because cannibalism was one of the, you know, worst sins you could do in some of these cultures. which rightfully probably gave you the title as monster. But it could also come into the tale that, these were long, cold winters.
Hmm.
A lot of fireside stories told by mouth. What could have been made a fairy tale to sort of make people do the right action could have became a real sort of boogeyman for the people, sort of like the devil in Christianity, something they actually believe in, which is this accumulation of evilness in the world, uh, which may lead to the reason why a lot of these cultures, you're not supposed to name it. It's like a curse put upon your household and your lineage if you talk about these creatures too much.
And that kind of brings me into like my next talking point, in that like this is not something that you really talk about. And
No, no,
and I don't want to like
Navajo people will not talk about these
and
creatures.
and I kind of want to respect that in a lot of ways. And I don't want
I,
to go
we
too.
I, we are both idiots.
Yeah, we
We
do want to clarify we are both idiots.
Yes, this
But we're
is
respectful idiots.
we are respectful idiots, but we are both idiots to the point that, if talking about it brings bad juju to you or whatever, uh, yeah, we're gonna have some bad luck.
Yeah.
I regularly walk under ladders just for the fun
Just
of
for
it.
the fun of it, yeah.
Just for the
I
fun of it.
seek
I
black
want,
cats to walk in front of my path.
yeah, I
I
want
break
to like,
mirrors just for the hell of it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um,
Every time I see a mirror, I just break it. Just break
but
it.
to kind of go into my next topic is like, in a lot of things I read about, is that they don't want their culture to be treated like this, like to become these monster stories that you can see. Like literally, we were talking about it earlier, that like you can type in Skinwalker on YouTube and half the results are just I kind of want to say a mockery of the culture, you know, where it's these.
I do think that there is this sort of what's the word I'm looking for? This grandiose theory that this grandiose idea on the things like skinwalkers that people are so interested and want them to be true, but this is to a certain culture
Real. This
the
is their
the
culture. This is their
this is
history.
real. This is I believe is some of the most evil entities out there, and people are making it fun and games by just trying to find them, while it's not something that if it were real you wouldn't want to find. And whether or not it's just the demonization of a human due to unforgivable acts, or actually an evil spirit that's out there that is that harms people.
And I guess this kind of brings me into my next talking point, in that like, is it inherently wrong? Because like, I mean, it's even mentioned, like you can go to the Skinwalker Wikipedia, and there's literally a quote by um one of like a leader of the like a Cherokee, like one of the leaders, or like an activist of the Cherokee Nation, um talking about, I think specifically they say Rowling, like J.K. Rowling, writer of Harry Potter, um bringing in their cultural like identity and kind of corrupting it in this way. Is there a more respectful way to go about it? Like, or like, I mean, like, is it their right as a culture to be say, hey, don't talk about this. This is ours.
uh so I'm freedom of information. I do believe that people should be interested in other cultures and learn it. I don't think it is right to harass people in that culture about the mythos, because there are several people that just go to Indian reservations just to ask people, just be like, "Hey, what can you tell me about skinwalkers and stuff like that?" When it's taboo to talk about it, and I don't think that's right.
I think I agree with that.
Uh,
And that kind of
but
brings
now
up the
the
fact.
but the interest though in cryptozoology, I don't think it's a bad thing. I do not think it is a bad thing for people to be interested in sort of the unknown. Uh,
I have a fascination with cryptozoology. Again, I do want to clarify, I don't really believe in any of it, because 99% of the cryptozoological creatures they talk about just have no basis in science. Um, but
I
I
would
do,
have you.
but
I would like to point out that the Sipsy creature is real.
look,
That
90% of people who
documentary
are going to
was
watch this are not even going to know what
100%
a
true.
Sipsy is.
I don't care. I don't care. If you viewers, if you or listeners, if you want a good watch, go to the animalplanet.com, look up Sipsy Creature I Was Bitten, and you will find the best documentary that you've ever seen.
Okay. But
That
I
man, that man is a hero.
that man is a hero. I think the thing that's interesting me about cryptozoology is it's a way to it's focusing on like the boogeymen, like, as a kind of mentioned, the boogeymen of different cultures. Um, and there's a lot of boogeymen. Like every culture has these innately like evil creatures. Like a lot of it, from what I was like just doing like general research on it, it was like stories you tell children and people to like do good, like be a good child, do this, and such won't come after you, you know. And
I agree with that in a lot of mythology. There's something. So I'm particularly very much interested in the idea of skinwalkers and wendigos, just because it's such a prolific mythos all throughout the North American Native Indian tribe culture. Uh, that it begs the possibility of the question, like, is there something out there that we don't
like, is
understand?
there a basis for like I mean, because
Is
a
there a
lot of
basis for it?
I mean, because like all fiction has a basis in reality, you know.
Is there, and is it very much just feral people that went mad in the woods and stuff? Or is there something? Is there a malevolent force? And I'm not saying there is or anything by any means. I just like to ask that question because I don't think that curiosity is necessarily a bad thing.
I mean, I agree
And
with that. Yeah.
you've stated you're a man of scientist. I mean, I'm closer to being a scientist than you are. I'm a semester out from graduating. I'm getting my PhD and stuff
Oh, Mr.
soon.
Big Man with his big degree.
Hey, I just like birds and fishes. But
Isn't it fish eye or fish? Like
no,
like
no,
like a group
no,
of moose or a group of meese.
no, no. Don't Hitchcock, don't be confusing the listeners. They could sue you for defamation. This is
Our
that
moose
is
our
that
moose
is
viewer base could sue me for
don't insult
defamation.
don't insult these groups of animals.
Am
You
I insulting Canadians or moose?
you are insulting ecologists, mooses, fishes
Well,
everywhere.
I don't respect ecologists.
Well, you don't respect me.
We've clarified this. this
Well,
this was
you're
known.
anyway. Uh, and there is weird phenomenon that occur in such like national parks of where people just go missing for no reason and are found miles apart from where they went missing in weird and precarious states. And I think that sort of not knowing what are causing this fuels this idea that something is out there.
I mean, it's. I mean, like, I think there is a lot about our world we don't know, and I mean, especially like we were talking about this earlier, like especially like the deep ocean and stuff like that, where like we just know so little about it, really. Um,
Wait. Do you think do you think the deep ocean has skinwalkers? Would those be scale walkers?
Scale walkers. I don't know. Is
Would they
there?
like disguise as like tuna instead of like coyotes and stuff?
Is a tuna a trickster animal? That I guess
Mm,
that's begging the question.
if I had to
What is
name
the
the trick,
trickster? What is the trickster animal of the ocean? I would say like an
definitely the
eel.
dolphin. I would say the dolphin.
I can't trust
Dolphins are
dolphins. You really can't
no,
trust dolphins.
they are malicious. If I dolphins are. I'm anti-dolphin, and you can quote me
I'm
on that.
anti-dolphin. Wow. But aren't they? But I mean, I can't be really anti-dolphin because like they're. From what I understand about dolphins, they're not really nice. They do a lot of horrible things.
No, they're mean,
But
very smart creatures. They bully sharks. Imagine bullying a shark. Imagine seeing a great white
imagine
shark.
being so cracked that you bully a
Yeah,
shark.
imagine just being big prick that you look at a shark with all these sharp teeth, just weighing a ton, predator of the sea, and you're like, yeah, we're gonna gang up on him. That's how big of assholes dolphins are.
Well, I'm gonna make an argument here. Like, they're like one of the most intelligent animals. Like, they have one of the largest brains. um,
In two
is
dolphins would probably be more qualified to talk about some of the
do
subjects we plan on talking about.
yeah, but dolphins. This is kind of getting into a subject of intelligence. Is evil and is evil tied to intelligence?
Yes, I do not think that something feral, if you a lion attacking you because it's hungry, I do not think is
Because
inherently
I think
evil.
people are way worse than dolphins.
Dolphins being intelligent have the act of being evil, and trust me, they are evil. Anyway, we should probably get back to talking about skinwalkers.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of
Uh,
dolphins.
I whatever, it's cool. Of course, dolphins wouldn't have scales, but anyway,
Wait, dolphins aren't
anti-dolphin.
fish?
You can quote me on that, people in the future.
I thought dolphins were
Uh,
fish.
no, dolphins are mammals.
Oh wow, I'm completely
Yeah, we
lying.
really are two idiots. One of us may be more of an idiot, though. The listeners, you're not an idiot, by the way. You are intelligent people. Subscribe. Anyway,
So
skinwalkers. There is the theory that Theodore Roosevelt, who, Teddy Roosevelt was a big believer in the cryptozoology
mhm.
stuff. He did all his travels, wrote in his journals about monsters and stuff. There's that conspiracy theory that the reason he made the national parks was to contain creatures like that.
And like, as someone who doesn't believe that, that's such a cool concept. I mean, like, can we talk about Teddy Roosevelt for a second? About how just
It is a very cool concept because more people go. You have a bigger chance of walking into a national park and going missing than you do anywhere else in the world.
but this could also be in the topic of, like, I mean, like,
I
a
mean,
lot.
national parks are also notorious for crime.
Yeah,
Like people
I
go
mean,
there for
and
seclusion for
also they're
crimes.
like, you go off the path. Like, it's incredibly easy to get lost in
But
natural woods and
but there's
natural
stories
environments.
though of people that are found miles away, like they were carried from where they were missing, and they're just tore to pieces.
Well,
And I mean, you could blame that on an animal and stuff, but and I'm not, by the way, saying that I believe in all this. I just like to make the counter argument that, I do think there's stuff out there that we don't understand.
and I think, like, that's kind of a lot, maybe, like, what a lot of, not just, like, we touched on that, like, these kind of cultural, like, I mean, like the Skinwalker, the Wendigo, and, like,
Uh,
witches, demons, like, these things kind of represent the evils of humanity, but, like, they can also act as, like, explanations for, because I mean, a lot of culture is just
uh,
explaining the natural world.
yeah, and it could be explanations of events that we do not know the answer to. That because humanity, humans don't do good with nuance,
No.
not knowing exactly what happened. And I think that's a lot of the reasons we build these elaborate conspiracy theories because we just can't accept that, hey, we don't know for sure how this occurred.
And, like, and I'm the kind of person that believes that over time people can learn, like if we don't know something, we'll learn how it works. I mean, and, like, we have.
Also, I would like to state, I hope people enjoy this podcast because I'm absolutely ruining my chances at any sort of research position in any credible laboratory in the future. So you're welcome.
I doubt it. I mean, like, it shows that you have interest in research. I mean, maybe
Oh yeah, like a college is going to be like, this kid,
he talks
he
about
he likes
skinwalkers. He talked
he
about.
wants to, he just wants to find skinwalkers, and it's just me going up to every coyote and shaking them vigorously and be like, tell me what you know.
Where are the skinwalkers?
Where they at? Is
Uh,
this your skin?
is this your skin? Did you take this skin?
Did you
Um,
take it?
I one thing that I also kind of like, because before we really even close anything out, is that from what I've read, that it's not just them transforming into animals. Like, it's not people that turn it, like, there's different variations of it. Like, there's some where they can, it's like possession and stuff like that, where they can take control of animals or even people and walk around in their bodies and do these nefarious acts.
Yeah, and one of the most common things that I'm aware of is mimicking voices. They're known to mimic voices, specifically of like a woman in distress, to get people to come into the woods. They like secluded people, is the how the legend goes. Uh,
And I'm wondering, so
well,
like you've like I've had personal experience because I enjoy camping a lot.
yes,
Um,
I'm outdoors quite often.
and you can hear like I've heard like wild cats like screeching.
Oh yeah,
Um,
a bobcat or a mountain lion. If you
and
have the unfortunate day
I'm
in the
I'm
year, it
gonna tell
sounds
you
just like a
right
woman
now, if
screaming.
I didn't know what that was, I would absolutely believe, okay, there's a monster out there and it's mimicking a
Oh yeah,
woman.
it's absolutely horrifying. Things like barda and screech owls that are found
Oh
around
my
here too.
god.
If you're out in the middle of the woods, that's startling to hear. And it could be that these cultures just heard these sounds and, like we said, didn't know exactly where they came from and filled in the information with these horror stories.
I just find I and like not to go into depth because we could touch on this on other like with other topics that are kind of similar to this. Um, and kind of rolling back like in like to the purpose these things serve in these cultures. Like not all these stories end in death or tragedy. Sometimes they are written as a people overcoming an overwhelming evil. Like there's talk of like Navajo, like in like Navajo stories where they actually like are able to defeat or kill or even like just scare away the Skinwalker.
Well,
Um,
the most common way is to scare them away. Now, if anyone out there is ever encounters a skinwalker and wants to kill it, you have to have white ash on the tip of a spear. That's how you kill them. So stock up on white ash
yeah,
before
you
you
never
go
know when you're gonna
before
need it.
you go
You need
camping.
silver bullets, salt, white ash, holy water. You need all of it.
Now, let's not get into conspiracy theory. I don't think holy water is going to do much good.
Let's
Uh,
not get into conspiracy
now,
theory.
but gray ash will not work. You need
Yeah.
white ash.
Well,
This is just what you got to do. It's what you got to do.
well,
But there are several people. I just find it interesting that there are so many people that have camping stories, especially. I've been in like national forests and stuff like that, and a lot of park rangers share these stories about how it's not just a scream or anything. They hear something in the woods saying their name, like a voice mimicking them, trying to get them to come in the woods, or they'll see yellow eyes out in the thickets and stuff like that. Do you think that's just paranoia in the human mind making up something, or do you think there could be any validity about that, however you say that word, truth
so
to it?
so in a way, like the human mind is kind of inherently paranoid.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, it
I mean,
also we all
like the
feel
fear
involved.
of the dark is a very common fear because it's a fear of the unknown.
It's one of the humans are born with three innate fears, and the dark is one of the three.
And like us not knowing things, like not knowing what are those glowing eyes we see in the dark. Like it could just be like a an opossum or a cat or like another kind of wild animal that where you're just seeing the glint in its eyes, or it
Did you
could
just say
be
opossum? Did you just pronounce the O in possum?
look. There's a possum and possum. There's two different creatures.
I don't think you're credible to be an idiot on this
What?
podcast.
What do you mean? I'm an idiot. I swear.
I swear it. I'm really dumb. Uh,
But but you know what I mean. Like we like your mind has to try to find to it a way to explain it, and
yeah, I mean, and your mind also fills in blanks. So, there's
yeah,
the mailbox scenario. If you drive past a mailbox at night, but you get the glimpse of it, your mind will actually make it look like a human until you
yeah.
look at it.
I mean
Just to fill in, just because your mind processes information and fills in blanks, and
and
sometimes it gets it wrong.
and this is me showing myself as an idiot and not citing my sources. I remember reading somewhere that the human
You can't read.
you're right. I've been found out. That the human mind is really skilled at recognizing faces and the human form
Yeah. So that
and
I think that
shapes out of nothing.
yes, and that goes into I think that makes a big bridge into a topic that I wanted to bring up. So I mentioned earlier, well, not too much earlier, the three innate fears that humans have. Uh, the dark and falling from tall heights are two that people are most common associated with. When you're born as a kid, those are the two most innate fears that you have. But there's a third one. Are you familiar with the uncanny valley effect?
Yeah, where like you can't trust something. Like
No, so
our brain is really good at like determining human faces, and if there's
yes,
something off about it, we will pick up on it immediately.
yes. So the uncanny valley effect is this innate fear response to things that are look human but are not human.
And I've heard,
And
okay, for a lot of things, not to interrupt you, like
okay, yeah.
for all the arguments for like weird cryptids and strange like that, that one was always the most fascinating to me. Is because
Well,
why do we have that fear?
this is what I'm gonna. So my specialty being community ecology, evolutionary ecology. Most of the time, things have this fear when born, because of some type of danger posed. Uh, Dark, the unknown, it's very scary to humans. Falling, also the unknown, very scary. It's pretty much immediate death, back before we had airplanes and parachutes and I don't know, other things. Uh, Big mattresses you land on. There we go. Uh, but the uncanny valley effect, human things freak us out because they're not particularly human. And that poses the question on an evolutionary standard. Was there something in humanity's history that looked human but wasn't that we evolved to fear?
I mean,
And if it's the case, could that be could some of the ancient myths about skinwalkers, wendigos, and such be relating to such a creature?
I, I always wondered if it was because, and I don't really think I see why, but like, I mean, I think a lot of people forget that humans, Homo sapiens, um, evolved and lived along with another race of humans.
Oh,
Like,
I mean, it was one or two other races.
like, and like,
Homo erectus, I believe, was one.
mhm.
The Neanderthals, we lived among the Homo neanderthalensis. Uh,
But like,
so,
just maybe
it
does
could
that is
be
that where it comes from? Like, what?
that be
Why?
because they look like us, but they weren't us. They were new species. But I don't know that because we don't show anything in the fossil records where they hunted us,
It was kind
where
of
there
the
would be
other. Like I won't even say the other way around, but
like, but
like
there, well, no. I mean, more than likely, what happened in the fossil evidence is that the species pretty much
yeah,
got along. We out competed them for
yeah,
resources,
and
and
like
kind of
there,
mated with it. We literally
yeah,
mated with them,
and
and
that's kind of thing
yeah,
was memories that we kind of became homogeneous with them.
yeah.
That
And so would that be uh would that be the cause of the uncanny valley effect, or was there something else that
that's like
just
that's
we're
the
not
first thing that
aware
that's
of?
really the first thing that comes to my mind of like that's the only instance that comes to my mind of where there was and we can do reconstructions of like a Neanderthal's face and like Homo erectus's like what they looked like, and those don't trigger the uncanny valley effect.
No,
They look,
it doesn't.
they
The
sure,
thing
sure
that
they don't look like. I mean, they look. They have different like facial features. They're a lot more pronounced in some different ways, but they
the
don't trigger that effect. They look
yeah
human.
the thing that triggers that effect most commonly nowadays is particularly uh statues, mannequins, dolls. This is why people have an innate fear of dolls. It's a human looking at thing without uh being actually human. But I will by point out this. It could be a response to psychopathy. It could not be less of a response to actually it not being human, but it not expressing emotions. It could have been a
Yeah.
response to humanity evolving to fear those that do not express emotions because that showed a dangerous psychopathic tendency.
Or I could even say unnatural emotion, like some like unnatural responses to stimuli.
Yeah,
Like
but that could because psychopaths have a similar effect on the uncanny effect. People that do not express facial emotions freak other people out. It's a fact. Uh, not to offend anyone who doesn't express facial emotions, I guess. But so it could be a way for us that we evolve to fear some of the most dangerous people in our society in times where, you were in competition for resources heavily.
I mean, this also brings in like, but there's also the argument in that like it's like evolution's not always it's a roll of the dice a lot of the time.
It
Um,
is, but usually the traits that stay around.
I mean,
So
but I mean,
or
but there's
for a
arguments like
reason,
there's a
there's a
lot of
reason.
our
Natural, so because there's this idea that natural selection is random. Natural selection is not random. It goes toward the goal of adapting to your stimuli.
yeah.
So there has to be a stimuli to adapt to in order for that response to happen. And
I don't know
it
if
may
that's
be
inherently true though, because like we have organs and like the way our bodies are built that are kind of
vestigial
pointless now.
organs.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
vestigial
they're
and pointless now.
pointless
They had a
now.
purpose at one point,
Pointless
and that's kind
now.
of where you're kind of getting an argument like what was its purpose at one
Yeah.
point.
So
But it
natural
could be a
selection.
byproduct of something else. Like it could have been like this could have just been happens. It could have just been something that just happened.
I see. Natural selection usually occurs to save energy. It's pretty much to make you live and thrive with the least amount of energy input. That is usually what evolution drives toward. Uh, for example, cavefish. Cavefish, have lost all eyesight. They've lost color pigmentation. By the common eye, they have gotten simpler in their evolution to what their past predecessors are, but they've gotten more efficient to their environment.
I guess this kind of brings because actually this is we've gotten off topic, but I think that's fair. I mean like I think
No, I
these are
think this
I
goes
think
with it because
yeah.
I'm saying the question: could this mythos come from something in our evolutionary history that once hunted us that was a close resemblance to us on the evolutionary tree?
And I think that's fascinating in a lot of the ways that a lot of
Like, could not just a mythos of a scientific boogaboo or spirit? Could there be some reality to this that at some point in our past, scientifically, there was something that we had to fear?
I think it's fascinating in a lot of the fact that like a lot of these monster boogeyman myths are anthropomorphized. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them are things that take the form of humans, are things that are human-like, that are bipedal, um, that resemble us but aren't us, or are a bastardization of
Yeah,
us.
and it honestly could come down to once again the psychopathy, like I talked about, because psychopaths are some are born, but you can be made a psychopath or a sociopath, whatever the correct term is, through events. And living in the wilderness, this harsh lifestyle, it's survive of the fittest. You would think that that may be uh, rewarded psychopathy, which pretty much is inherently selfish. And humanity, as they became more community organized, may have started to fear these people, these outliers that were not
Well,
community
I mean,
oriented.
like I think that fear comes in like that kind of
Because I
even
would state
hatred.
that a cannibal, someone living in the woods that feasts on people of its own species, would be someone that doesn't fit into that community aspect. I would classify them as a psychopath. That's another thing you can quote me on. I'm against cannibalism, and you can quote me on that.
Quote me on that. Um, this is kind of going around about in a little bit, but I wanted to like this is kind of touching on like evolution and like humans and stuff like that, and I just kind of want to get your opinion on it. What is the purpose? What do you what are your personal opinion is the purpose of dreams?
The purpose of dreams.
Yes, like why do we go into REM sleep and dream? Because it seems kind of counterintuitive to like if you're
I mean,
wanting like to just kind of make yourself completely defenseless and just
I will
open to
state to people,
death.
people state that we're here for Skinwalkers. This does have to do with Skinwalkers because it is in the mythos that you will encounter a Skinwalker after you dream about one. That one is hunting you if you dream about it. Uh, so this ties into it. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I could not tell you what I think the evolutionary purpose of dreaming is. Uh, I don't know. We don't actually really know the evolutionary purpose of sleep necessarily, like why we have the sleep pattern we do. Uh, because like we know it saves energy, but we don't know exactly why sleep is so important, for sure, if that makes sense.
I just find it fascinating. Like, and there's I've read some things that like psychopaths don't dream.
No, and
Um,
it could be that dreaming is connected to the emotional core. So the emotional parts of our brain were some of the last to evolve. Uh, the survival, the physical, those were the ones to first because those are basic instincts. But the emotional part is really what separates humanity. It could be people who do not have that tie to their emotional part of their brain uh, don't have access to that. And that could be why psychopaths don't dream. Which I don't know if psychopaths don't dream. I've never actually.
and I don't want to. Again, we are idiots. We don't know everything.
I just say I don't know. He made the statement. Come after him. He's the
Yeah,
idiot.
yeah. I'm perfectly fine being told wrong, and like if you can cite your sources, I deeply appreciate that because I do like learning. I'm fascinated by psychopaths and like sociopathy, which are kind of fun from what I understand. Actually, kind of were lumped into the same thing.
So I looked
Um,
it up. You're wrong. Psychopaths do dream.
well,
It's mostly nightmares. Psychopaths are known to mostly have nightmares.
I wonder why.
It,
Like why that? Are dreams and nightmares completely separate things?
I have no idea. I do think we need to probably talk about skinwalkers a little bit.
Yeah. We could probably even get up into closing a little bit because I think we've touched on, unless you have a specific thing about
I mean,
Skinwalkers
no,
you
no, I
want
mean,
to touch on.
but no, I think I think that it is. You can go on, and I know Reddit's not like a reputable place, but people have tons of stories about interacting creatures that fit the Skinwalker criteria. Uh, and the Teddy Roosevelt conspiracy theory. Do you think that these people are just hogwash conspiracy theories for believing possibly that there's something like this out there?
I don't think all of them are, and
If I had to give my opinion, I do not believe in like witches and ghosts and Bigfoot and stuff, but I do think that if there was the likelihood of any of them existing, uh, if I had to choose, I would choose the Skinwalker one as the one that I bought into.
I mean, like I also think it's like it's valuable to point out that these kind of concepts are pretty much in every culture, at least that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, almost every Native American culture had
Not
a
just
similar
Native American,
story.
like every culture.
Yeah, had a
Like,
similar story of something that takes the shape of animals, lures people into the woods, kills them, tricks them, some sort of thing like that. And could that just be the human imagination goes to a similar place?
I mean, even that, like, does it serve a purpose? Like, is it to cause like us to be truly afraid? Is it like an evolutionary thing to cause us to not want to go into dangerous places and not
It
to
it it
tempt
could be
dangerous
a
things?
cultural thing that people tell people to not make them do bad acts.
I
You
mean, it's
know,
that too, but like if you notice, a lot of it is based on things that go bump in the night. Reasons to lock your doors, reasons to hide, reasons to be safe. Are these innate fears the things that kept us alive?
yes, I mean,
Like
yeah,
I,
because whether it's skinwalkers, wendigos, there are things that go bump in the night that you do not want to come across in
yeah,
the middle of the
I
night.
mean it's the same reason. Like
Uh,
there's a reason we're scared of spiders and snakes, things that can hurt us.
don't be a spider hater. Don't be a
I
spider
don't
hater.
hate spiders. I am
I
terrified
sure-
of them.
s-
Rightfully so, but it's a
No,
respectful terror.
you're not. You shouldn't be terrified. Snakes are understandable. All snakes can die. We could solve snake extinction by more owls. Anyway, by the way,
What?
owls are the animal of the skinwalker. It was in a lot of cultures that if you saw an owl, there was a skinwalker nearby. It was a bad omen.
Now, here's the thing that I want to touch on. Are the creatures that represent bad omens good or bad things? Are they bringing the bad omen, or are they beings of
So that
like
depends on the culture.
they are there to help you. They are benign. They are um
There are some Native American cultures that believe the owl's there to signal that there was an evil entity around. and there are some cultures that say that the owl itself is part of the evil entity.
I,
And
I'm more hopeful about it that I would like if I was in that culture, I'd be the
oh,
one like.
I am also more hopeful about it because owls are my favorite animal.
I
I
mean, owls
love
are
owls,
pretty rad.
but owls are something in a lot of people associate, but in Native American culture, owls are most likely known for bad, evil spirits nearby.
Which is odd because in a lot of cultures, owls are seen as beings of wisdom.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
not in a lot of Native American cultures. And I think it's because it's a nocturnal animal. It's out during the time of day where people were the most fearful.
and most in danger of dying. I mean, most crime happens at night. Most like animals that want to hurt us come out at night. Um, and it's also where we can't where our senses are dulled enough to where we're out of our element. Um,
Yeah, and these are questions to ask. Now, I do want to talk on the final thing in this. We need to be do need to be wrapping it up. What's your opinion on Skinwalker Ranch? Let's talk about like that whole ordeal. I
okay,
recently watched a documentary on it. The Shermans on the ranch.
okay,
What's your opinion on
okay.
that?
From
And
what
if anyone doesn't know, Skinwalker Ranch is a ranch in Utah that is known for paranormal activity.
um I um I was like, oh, what's this Skinwalker Ranch? What's this?
They raise skinwalkers, they sort of like
I
cattle.
was
The
like, I
milk
was like, ooh, what?
milk is.
Yeah,
I know
so what?
skinwalkers will probably kill you, but the cheese made from their
Yeah,
milk
the
absolutely
milk.
phenomenal.
God, do you milk it? So, do you have any
Everything can be milked if you try hard enough.
they all got different milk. Um,
Everything can be. You can get milk from something. You can get a drinkable liquid from everything if you try hard enough.
I think it's malarkey, a lot of it, and this is the kind of thing that I like was touching on earlier, that I don't like. Literally, I like just to pull up. I literally went to a YouTube video, and it in this one place called Skinwalker Ranch. They're looking for UFOs, ghosts, shadow figures, skinwalkers, like
Now,
all of it.
a lot of that has been elaborated, but the original story behind it was skinwalkers. The Shermans, they were the ones that originally owned the place. The reason they sold the place was because they kept coming in encounter with what they said absurdly large wolves that walked on their hind legs like people.
I mean, like again, like I think anything that's
And
bipedal that shouldn't be bipedal freaks us out.
yeah, that reminds me of the Adventure Time episode, where the
The
deer stands up
deer,
on its
the
hind
deer
legs.
where it stands
It
on hind
like
legs, takes off its
it like
toes, and it has hands.
it has that freaks me out. That every time I see that, it's very, very unsettling. But
But
the second owners of Skinwalker Ranch, they left the ranch for the same reason, and then it was bought and then advertised for this paranormal activity. But it started on the reports of skinwalkers,
I just
and there's a lot of park rangers in national forests that have reports on skinwalkers, like different people. So, is your opinion? Do you think that this is just people completely making it up?
no,
Uh,
I don't think
it's
I
putting
don't think that's completely what it is. I think
putting
it.
in information to fill in blanks, or do you think that there's the possibility that you know these stories are not fabricated, that there's at least one creature out there that we do not understand, and that it is could be behind you as a seemingly innocent animal at any time?
So the way I
Sleep well
see,
tonight, kids.
so the way I see it
Hmm.
is that most of these stories, like especially like ghosts, demons, like UFOs and stuff like that, are a lack. I don't want to say ignorance because that sounds rude, and I don't want to call people ignorant whenever
I'm
they
gonna
don't
bring
understand
bring
something.
back to my how I introduced this thing. Why are you a hater?
I just am. It's who I am. But like I think it's lack of understanding about something, and
And that is completely plausible too. That's completely understandable. It could be the lack of understanding of something. Uh, I personally, if I had to make a statement here, I have been out in the woods at night enough to know that, and it may just be my own fears driving it, but I do not like going out in the woods at night. I do think that there are things, whether they be coyotes and stuff like that, wild hogs, to be feared at night. And I'm not scared of the dark. I will go out, but I feel very uncomfortable being out in the woods at night.
And I think that's just like kind of an innate thing, and like there's nothing wrong with that, especially. Um,
Yeah, I'm a scaredy cat idiot.
I don't think you're a scaredy cat idiot. I think you're just like this is the
An
reason
idiot.
that our species has survived.
No, I
Um,
mean humanity has survived by being overly cautious.
like,
Uh,
and I think
going out into the middle of the woods in the dead of winter,
not
is
a great
probably
idea. It's
not
not a
the
good
greatest
idea.
of idea. Yeah, and if you have to tell children not to do that by saying that there's a Wendigo or a Skinwalker out there,
I mean,
uh,
good enough. Yeah, if it keeps us
good enough.
alive, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it keeps us
Um,
alive.
but I mean, like, it's kind of had the counter problem of that, like, people like, oh, I want to go to this place where these things are and see them, and I'm like, that kind of, I don't really get that. I've never understood that. I don't want to go Bigfoot hunting because,
Oh, I do. I want to visit Skinwalker Ranch. There's a cave in New Mexico that is supposed. So another theory that these entities, by the way, so the cave systems in America also overlap with the national forest,
mhm.
and the theory with that is that a lot of these creatures live in caves.
I just think 90% of it. I do think and again I am often wrong and my brain is very smooth. Um, but I think that a lot of it can be explained of just that the human mind is not like not knowing things. And it will do whatever it can. It will tell you will come up with all these things that like this it's okay, I don't know what this is, so it must be this. And
Uh,
like a lot of those stories kind of serve that purpose of like the things we don't understand, you can blame them on these paranormal,
Bugaboos,
unexplainable things.
and that is true. But I also would state that I think there are things that the human mind just doesn't understand
Like
out
Rubik's
there.
cubes, I don't understand those.
I I was stuck in a Chinese finger trap the other for 2 weeks last year. Worst 2 weeks of my life.
Yeah, I don't
Try
get those.
try peeing in a Chinese finger trap.
I guess I gotta ask, how were you stuck in the Chinese finger trap? Um, but
No, yeah, it's a long story, but anyway, Skinwalker helped me out of it.
Skinwalker helped me out of it. My buddy Skinwalker Dave helped me out of it.
He
Um,
dresses like a raccoon though.
yeah,
He
he's a
doesn't
real,
like to dress. He isn't with the. He's a real outsider. He doesn't dress like the coyotes.
real
You
chill
know,
guy.
real chill.
The kind of guy that you kind of want to get a beer with. But it's
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
the
weird to
kind
go
of
get a
guy.
beer with a
It's the
raccoon.
kind of guy that if he was saying your name in the woods, you'd go in the woods.
Yeah.
That's the type of Skinwalker he is.
Well,
Uh,
I think that's where we're gonna kind of start closing off.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree. We've got one more thing. So at the
yeah.
end of every podcast, we are going to spin the wheel of what now are they the wheel of what are they talking about now. Uh, it is a big wheel that we filled with topics, and what it lists will be our next week's topic, and I'm about to spin it.
Oh god, I'm scared. What's it gonna be?
Uh, let's see. Spin that wheel.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Alrighty. Next week we will be talking about Alabama's biodiversity.
Oh hell yeah, something that I know nothing about, and you know absurdly a lot about.
I do. So I'm excited about that. Yep, we're talking about Alabama's rich biodiversity. Uh, this has been two idiots talking about topics that we have no business talking about.
Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, hit that bell, whatever you want to do. I don't particularly care. I just like talking about interesting subjects. And if you are interested,
If you do not like and subscribe, a Skinwalker will get you in your sleep.
I'm not gonna say that because
It is a fact.
I look. He's the
He's
one.
a hater. He's a hater, and it's a fact.
I mean, he's got an ecological degree. I can't really argue with that. But
It's a fact. It's a fact. Stock up on silver bullets and white ash, and I will see you next time, folks.
adios.